Alright guys, TacticalRabbit here today, and this is a pre-recorded video. I'm recording this Thursday night because I'm away all day Friday, so unfortunately no recap of the Thursday action, but I'll probably go through it very briefly at the start of Saturday's video, whatever video I decide to make that day. But regardless, today we're going to be talking about Luminosity Gaming and what their problem is right now. Of course, because I'm pre-recording this before Friday, we don't have access, or at least I don't have access, to the Red Reserve match that is happening tonight as I'm recording this. So we've got the Reciprocity and the UIU matches, and there's a lot of things we can take away from that. If they somehow come out and stomp Red Reserve or look much better, then you can take a lot of the things I say in this video with a grain of salt, and feel free to roast me in the comment section below. Regardless, let's go through some of the matches today. What exactly are the issues? Because I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on it, and what would you change in this team right now? Because it's unlikely, as far as I see it, that this team, this current five, with Coach Ricky, of course, and he's their substitute as well, as someone was asking yesterday, how far can they go right now? Because yes, they came top 4 at Vegas, but they didn't have to go through the Pro League qualifier, which honestly, on the form they're looking in right now, was very much, they lucked out, put it that way. So like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, and let's go through some of these scoreboards. So I just want to breeze through these because there's probably more important things to talk about, but I thought I'd bring them up again, courtesy of EasyMac, as always. I'll leave his spreadsheet down in the description box below. And yes, if you look through these scoreboards, you will see a common trend. Formal and Gunless, generally the ones dominating right here. So yeah, we have this map 1 against Reciprocity, which they end up losing. Formal drops 39 for loss. And I'll just kind of scoop through these a little bit quicker than I usually would in the recap videos, just for you guys if you want to pause it, have a look at exactly what's going on. You can see exactly what's going down here. This was a control map, of course. And yeah, once again, Gunless 29 and 23. John also did pretty damn well this map, and LG actually managed to take this one. Then we have map number 4. LG clutched up and brought it back. This is when they nearly reverse swept Reciprocity. And once again, it was really Formal as the driving force behind that. And you can see Slacked. Probably something one we're going to have to talk about a fair bit in this video. Struggling a little bit in this situation. Then you have Reciprocity again, winning that map number 5. Formal goes 15 in 6 for the loss. Tragic stuff. Then they played against UIU yesterday. Now, I honestly thought Reciprocity a pretty decent team. UIU didn't have too many expectations of. To be honest, UIU, in my estimation, just get hard carried by Methods and Mayhem. I'm not sure their team play is actually that amazing, but Methods and Mayhem just went off this series. But regardless, Luminosity still shouldn't be losing to a team like this. The KDs were dire from Luminosity here. I will talk about the actual individual player KDs in just a second. Then we have game number 2. They actually come up with a surprising search and destroy victory here. But this was the first S&D they won, and the last S&D they won, or at least so far. Maybe they'll win one tonight against Red Reserve, definitely possible. But it took Gunless going 16 and 4 for this to happen. And Gunless, arguably, up there with the best players in the game right now. You know, you've got Arcites, you've got Dashi, of course, you've got Temp in the conversation. Gunless is gotta be there. And the hard carry was real this map, but game number 3 didn't work out in their favour at all. A hot 3-0 for UIU. Really no signs of life here on the side of Luminosity. Specialist use was awful, which I'm sure we can talk about a little bit more soon rather than later. And once again in this map, John was the only shining light. Really Luminosity just getting worked right here, at least in the KD standpoint, which of course you can't take too much into. So following these matches, we got this that I saw on Twitter yesterday, where John has supposedly liked these tweets. Yeah, I agree, that's why they need Hacky. Slacked a burger, come on now. Now, if they picked up Decimate and Hacky for Classic and Slack's team would be good. So apparently, John has liked both these tweets, kind of implying that he's not happy at all with the current state of the team. Now, a lot of people would suggest that, well, you know, John, you should clean your own house up before you start pointing blame elsewhere, because it's not exactly like John has been doing spectacularly. But let's have a look at some of his stats here. So let's go through the team once again, courtesy of EasyMac. Pretty sure this 10th thing here on the right isn't really representative of what's actually going on, because it says everyone's 10th. But I'm pretty sure these numbers are legit, because EasyMac's done all the stats, and I'm pretty sure this is what's going on right now. So Formal sitting at a 1.08 overall, which is remarkably solid considering they're 0-2, right? They've won, what, 3 maps? They're 3-6 so far in map count. You know, Control's not looking great, but S&D, Hardpoint, pretty damn good. Then Gunless, of course, the main man on this team, really. I guess Formal, Gunless, interchangeable right now in that kind of role. But look at this S&D KD. Hardpoint actually hasn't been spectacular, but he does have the occasional map where he takes over. And honestly, when you see this guy on a Maddox, like, you don't think he's going to lose a gunfight, let's put it that way. And one of the things I want to say right now before I forget about it is the role situation on this squad, because a lot of people would suggest that right now Formal is basically their ICR, Gunless is using a Maddox, and then we have Classic who's pretty much using a Maddox as well. Then you have John, of course, using an SMG, and then Slacked. So let's have a look at these guys' stats. Classic hasn't been doing fantastic. His Search and Destroy has always been known for being kind of shoddy. But he's doing well in hardpoint, not so great in control. Overall KD, nothing spectacular. Then we have John, of course, who's, you know, S&D and control, struggling in a very similar sense, honestly, to what Classic is right now. And then a lot of people would suggest Slacked is the guy that is underperforming right now. One quick note here, I'm pretty sure Gunless is actually Canadian instead of American, so before you guys, any of you guys mention that in the comments. Yeah, so Slacked at a 0.8 right now. After these 2 matches, of course, maybe he'll get much better tonight. You know, feel free, as I say, to roast me in the comment section below if none of this is relevant anymore. But regardless, it was either I make this video or I don't make a video at all. So, yeah, hardpoint KD 0.75, that is tough. S&D been doing relatively solid, but then again, they've only played like 3 S&D maps, so that's what the stats are looking like. And back to that role situation. Classic, for like 1 map, I think he pulled out the ICR. And a lot of people would suggest maybe that's the way to go, to get Formal and Gunless on the Maddoxes, because the Maddoxes is, you know, definitely the more important roles on the team than the ICR, because the ICR guy is all the way at the back, not contributing as much as an SMG who's the first to push out a lane. That's what a lot of people would argue in this game right now, whereas, you know, in World War II, you could definitely argue that your AR was the most powerful weapon by far, which meant that, you know, you should do a slashy, you should do a dashy and just run around the map with it. And I guess that is kind of the case here with the Maddox, but I guess maybe Parzelion on Midnight have kind of proved that your ICR can have a real big impact on the game if you play it correctly. So maybe this idea that Formal should get off the ICR is not 100% accurate. The idea that Classic should take it up, I think, is questionable. But then again, you already have Formal and Gunless on your team who are kind of, like, not slower, but they're AR players at heart, maybe, I guess you could say. And if you were to say, like, kick one of the players to bring in another ICR and then have, like, Classic and John as your aggressive duo, now I don't think down the line, as games tend to get quicker and quicker over time, that's really going to work out in your favour. So it's very difficult to know what roster change to make right now. It's tough to say you get rid of John. I don't think you can realistically do that. He always tends to get better towards the end of titles. So, you know, you've got to keep Formal Gunless John, no questions asked. Of course, these guys will probably be regretting not keeping JCap, because supposedly these guys actually decided they're going to get rid of JCap before the start of the season. He didn't know until last minute. He went over to the E United squad and had a lot of success, of course. Came second at CWL Las Vegas. So they bring in Classic instead for JCap, and, you know, it's not really working out. I think I remember Formal saying in an interview with Deserto something along the lines of, like, I fancy myself, I feel like I've got a lot of leadership talents, and I kind of took that to imply that maybe he thinks having Jacob on the team isn't worth it anymore, and, you know, I'm going to do it alone, and it hasn't really, doesn't seem like it's working out for them so far. So a lot of people would suggest you get rid of Classic, you get rid of Sight, either one or both of them, and you bring in, like, some young bloods, like a Celium, like a Simp, something like that. Simp is actually available now. He is officially 18, an S&D star, very storied player. We've heard of him for years. But I kind of feel like this team relied on their JCap figure that they had for a long time. He's so good at getting the best out of his players, and maybe John misses that, and maybe Formal, to some extent, overestimated his ability to kind of lead the squad, and it's very arguable that maybe JCap and Gunless, some personalities like that would have clashed, maybe, but regardless, especially in a 5v5 setting, I feel like someone like Jacob is such a valuable asset. Maybe Formal was thinking in 4v4, we need heavier slaying in order to be the best team in the game, but in 5v5 you can afford someone to be dropping like a 0.85 or a 0.9 if he's contributing so much other things out of the game. So it's really difficult to know how you fix this team. You're not going to be able to get JCap back, I can almost guarantee that for at least the near future. And who the hell do you get instead of, I'm presuming most of you guys want to get rid of Slacked, which is probably the first target. Yes, he's probably been underrated the last few years, but this year, at least in the Pro League so far, he's really not performing as he should, or, you know, as people would predict him to. So I guess he's the man you try and replace, but swapping him out for some younger talent, I'm not sure it's going to work. There's so much talent on this team already, but it's not really being harnessed, and also the specialist use isn't great. One thing to mention about Slacked is how his gravity spikes are probably one of the worst in the league. He had the Tempest, I think, at Vegas, and he was just missing every shot people were talking about. And, yeah, and then he has the gravity slam, and the amount of times he just gets nothing with it, or he gets one kill that's not even relevant, is rather funny. But I feel like all the top teams in the game, they have some sort of, I don't know about father figure, but someone like that. Someone like a Crimsix, a Karma, a JCap, a Looney, for example. Someone who can really lead a team. those are the teams that are going to be the best in the long run on LAN and going to be contributing for championships, especially in a 5v5 setting, I think. And if Luminosity don't have a player like that, and they don't have a player like that right now, the vocal side of things is probably just Formal and Gunless, because John isn't going to say much, Classic isn't going to say much. I don't know how much Slacked talks, but they really need to. And okay, Ricky is their coach right now, so maybe he fills into that role to some extent, but I feel like they would benefit massively if JCat was to somehow materialize back on the team. But if that's not a possibility, what is your play call? Do you try and get another player like that? How many players like that are there really out there? Parasite maybe could be someone you consider, but I can't only imagine him clashing heads with some of the players on the team, but maybe Ricky can talk some, I don't know, not talk some sense into him, but get those guys to kind of get along a little bit, considering Ricky's played with Parasite before on that Pittsburgh Knights team just recently. So that's maybe an option, but it's very difficult right now. You could possibly just try and stack your roster with a load of talent like a Simp and a Celium and hope it works out in your favor. That's one route to go down, but yeah, as I say, right now it's very difficult. So let's look at some gameplay before we end the video. So, this is the Reciprocity versus Luminosity match. This is the very first map they played. And LG had a big lead here. They're up like 100 points or something like that. Reciprocity are bringing it back at this point. And you can see Shawnee gets streaks through his name. So, they're rotating over towards this middle hard point. And yeah, Wuskin does really well, especially Denz, I thought. Denz was the one really going off this map for Luminosity. But you can see really how this transpires towards the end. Because Formal just goes off, and it's still not enough. So yeah, you can see all those blue arrows coming from the right side of the minimap right there. And yeah, it's all about this rotation. Denz makes a fantastic play pushing through. He's super close to streaks as well. And yeah, not a particularly slackered push here from Luminosity, but you can see how John's kind of out here all on his own, no teammate support, and the fact that he dies there means that his teammates spawn all the way at the other side of the map, completely the wrong hill, and Tommy takes down Slacked in the back, and yeah, that's just the perfect break and play there. If John backs up all the way and stays alive, then he has a reasonable chance. But the fact that he goes and, well, takes a fight, I guess. He didn't know there was going to be a player there, but it was very likely that there was going to be someone pushing up to that position. The fact he takes that fight is, well, very questionable to say the least. Denz gets into this corner as well. They go for a two-person water stack. And yeah, Gunless has the Tempest, of course. This guy's shot is incredibly good, but the streaks just devastate them coming through the front. And yeah, not the best specialist use by any means. Gunless does a good job trying to wait for his teammate, but look at John again on the minimap. He tries to flank through mid, but there's no one else with him there, and he's going to die to Wuskin. No trading at all. By the time Slacked is there for the trade, it's like 20 seconds later. It's at least 5 seconds later, which is a big deal here. So it looks like Reciprocity are going to be running away with this one. Shawnee gets one in the back and can dip down into the water, and it's all about this rotation here over towards the fences. Luminosity do a decent job in terms of where their spawns are right now, but Reciprocity flip all the way along the other side of the map. Formal wins a nice gunfight against Wuskin right there, and you can see this nice setup from Luminosity right now in the hard point. They've basically got everything they want. They're pushing out both sides, and they're just waiting for Tommy to implement this gravity spike, our Reciprocity. They're trying to set up some sort of pinch. They've got Denz flanking all the way around, trying to deal with Formal, and yeah, Tommy goes in with a grav slam, takes down one, and deals with John as well, but here comes Formal with the Annihilator. Look at this shot over the top, man. This is what Luminosity, like, this is their entire playstyle right now, is just hoping Formal and Gunless just dominate people, and Formal ends up getting streaks here, so the comeback is potentially on, and Reciprocity, we know how much they love to choke these away. He kills Wuskin. Shawnee makes a good decision and runs away, because when Formal isn't missing like this, well, it's very scary indeed. And he's super close to streaks, takes down Dead. I honestly thought he was going to go 5 for 5 with these shots, but he misses this one onto Wuskin right here. And yeah, LG bringing it back slowly but surely. Look at this fight that Formal takes. The ICR in hand, relatively close range gunfight, deals with Wuskin, no problem at all, and now he has streaks to his name, and you think this is the comeback central, baby. Look at the scoreboard. Slacked is 19 in 31. Classic's having a good game, but it always seems like if one of these players on LG is having a good game, they're always counterbalanced by someone who's, not doing so well, to put it lightly. And these streaks come in from Formal, but Reciprocity do a really good job of going into the water and staying alive there, and the trades come in very nicely indeed. Wuskin pops the Annihilator, and that spells the end of the game. So even with Formal going absolutely off like he did, there was nothing Formal and the rest of Luminosity could do to try and win the game, and that kind of sums it up right now, what we're seeing from Luminosity Gaming. So like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, leave your thoughts on the team in the comment section below, and what would you do to fix this team right now. So thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.
Nice work, Black Ops. Get ready for the next round. Switching sides.